Hello.
Thank you so much for agreeing to do this. We know it's not always easy, but we're thinking about inspiring others today. And we know that when we share our stories, it does inspire others and God does speak to us through each other. So big thanks to you.
Well, it's all a pleasure.
Would you tell us a little bit about yourself just to start with?
Certainly, yes. I'm Nick. I'm retired. I'm 62. I used to work as an airline pilot for about 20 years, and prior to that, as a chartered surveyor in West London. I was originally born and brought up in Essex and moved to London in the late 80s, I guess, mid to late 80s, where I was working then as a chartered surveyor, and then subsequently dotting around a bit, we ended up in the West Midlands, and then came down about 2.5 years ago to Budleigh for retirement, and it's great.
Good. We're very glad you did.
Well, yeah, we actually had a choice between coming here and coming to where I spent a lot of my time as a child on a holiday home. My mother had a holiday home on the Essex coast, a place called West Mersey. Had some very happy memories there, and we did look there, and we thought we'll either come to Budleigh or go there. And we found a house in Budleigh, in Mersey, I should say, that was perfect in many, many ways. But right at the last minute, people kept saying to us, "Oh, we're so glad you're buying because you don't need a mortgage." And I thought, well, why do you need a mortgage on this house? And of course, it turned out it was a 1920s timber-framed house you can't get a mortgage on. So we pulled out and came down to Budleigh. Unfortunately, we had this house in reserve. So I feel that's part of God's leading in a way of coming here. I hope so, anyway.
Excellent. We think so. We think
yes,
so.
Yes.
Would you tell us a little bit about how you became a Christian and what your faith means to you?
Yes. I became a Christian probably shortly after I started working in London as a chartered surveyor. There was a guy in the office who, one of the extraordinary things was he went to church. And I thought, well, why on earth would you go to church? But he also quite regularly went to lunchtime meetings as well, and was regularly saying, well, come along for this lunchtime meeting, not just to me, but others in the office as well. And he wasn't what I had in my mind as a stereotypical Christian. He was very outgoing, a very interesting guy, and so you felt almost honoured to go along with him, really. And so off we toddled to his lunchtime meetings, which were okay, I suppose. Quite intellectual, because they're all city guys, I suppose, who were there. Subsequently to that, he said, well, when you move up to London, as I thought he was going to do, why don't you come along to my church? Which I eventually ended up doing, not because I felt particularly wanted to go to church, but just because I knew there were a lot of young people there, and I didn't know anybody in London, so we could way of getting to know people. And sure enough, went along to the church. And it was Holy Trinity Blompton, and was a bit blown away by it all. It was nothing like church I'd ever experienced before. And very quickly found myself being signed up for an Alpha course, which was great. The Alpha course was basically Introduction to Christianity. It was full of very exciting people who had lots of exciting stories to tell, who were all very enthusiastic and were very nice people. And so I got on with them really well, and during the course made a commitment, and so here I am, I guess. I've been a Christian ever since, and it's been obviously an interesting journey, but I think a thoroughly worthwhile journey as well, and very rewarding journey.
Excellent, thank you. And lastly, can you tell us about a time, well, you already have, but can you tell us about any other times where you felt God led you, and how that worked out in practice? It's something we talk about a lot, is asking for God's guidance, but actually in practice that can feel quite difficult. So can you share a time?
Yes, I suppose I'm I'm well, I am a bit impulsive, but one of the biggest choices I made was to give up being a chartered surveyor and go off to do flying training. And I'm afraid my decision was more based on what I wanted to do, and God can come along too, if He would please. You're part of this, aren't you? I wasn't terribly inspired as being a chartered surveyor, but was very motivated to be an airline pilot. And it took a while, with 1 or 2 hiccups along the way, but I eventually made it, and it was certainly a rewarding and worthwhile journey. Rather than being led perhaps to do that, I feel that one of the things that's so important that He showed me when I was flying was based back to Psalm 103, where the psalmist says, roughly, as far as the east is from the west, that is how far He has removed our transgressions from us. At 35,000 feet, east and west is a jolly long way, and you see some lovely sights when you're flying, but one of the most exciting at 35,000 feet is seeing how far away the east and the west really is. And for me, that is such confirmation that God loves me, and He has removed my transgressions. I try not to transgress now because of that. I don't succeed, but none of us succeed, I don't think. So,
thanks for that, Nick. Thank you. That's always been one of my favourite verses, but to hear it from the perspective of a pilot is just gives it that little bit of extra meaning, doesn't it?
Oh, I hope so. Yes. No, it wasn't just, well, it was that, but I felt so privileged to be able to see so much of what the Lord had created from 35,000 feet. And you look down, and it's not just the tiny little fields and little cars driving along, and occasionally other airplanes and so on, but the cloud formations and seeing a thunderstorm close up, and sometimes scarily when you're in it as well. But the power and majesty that you see through that is just awe-inspiring. And that's something I guess I really do miss as part of my flying now, for being grounded. But Lord's teaching me new things down here as well, so which is good.
Bless you. Thank you, Nick. It's really good to hear how God spoke to you and blessed you, even in the course of a working day. That's a nice thought, isn't it? That actually, even in the course of our work, God is with us and speaks to us.
Yes.
Using it as opportunities to teach us.
It gave me opportunities occasionally to talk to my co-pilot, who couldn't go anywhere, about my faith. So he was trapped.
Lovely.
The duration of the flight or duration of the day, really. But no, it's I don't think I'd be responsible for bringing many pilots anywhere to God. But you never know, and that's the beauty. You just never know. So hopefully I'll have sowed 1 or 2 seeds along the way. So.
I'm sure you have. Thank you so much, Nick. Thank you for taking time to talk to us today, and God bless you and Myron as you continue to serve Him here.
Oh, thank you. It's been great fun. Right.